Hello. So last week you did a practice looking at two websites using our DRAC model to evaluate websites. And so it was just a practice. You did get a score, and that score was just for you to know about where you were at and really which parts you needed to review before we do the assessment this week. So I'm going to go over that practice. I also have a written version going over this practice too. So you can read it, you can watch this video, you can do both. Look at your practice, look at the answers you got correct and the ones that you got incorrect so that you are best prepared for this assessment. This is a tricky standard, knowing how to look at websites and determining if they're good websites for school reports. But it's super important because there's a lot of fake stuff out there, and we want to make sure that we're using the best resources we can for anything that we do. So the first thing that you had to look at was a website called Weather Whiz Kids, and it was specifically on the tornadoes page. And so the first question is, what is the domain? And to find our domain suffix, we need to look up at the URL. And we know what a URL is. That's one of our vocab terms from earlier in the year. And when I look at that URL, I see it as .com. Okay, so everyone should be able to look at that URL, see that it says .com, and select that as your answer. That tells me that I need to check it carefully. Okay, so it is .com and I need to check it carefully. And then move on to relevancy, okay, the R. So is this related to my topic being tornadoes? It's a lot of facts and pictures and all kinds of things about tornadoes. So yes, it is related to my topic. Does it help answer questions I have about tornadoes? We're going to assume that it's a basic report about tornadoes. We've got stuff about what a tornado is, facts about tornadoes, tornado safety. There's lots of things we can answer here about tornadoes. So does it help answer questions? Yes. And then is it fact or opinion? So what we're seeing here are facts, okay? It literally says facts, but sometimes websites could say that. But an opinion would say, I think tornadoes are better than hurricanes because they happen over land. Something like that. Whenever you're talking about someone's opinion, that's not necessarily the best thing to use for a report. So we're looking for facts, and that's what I see here. So we want to choose fact. Then we look at the authority, and this was the hardest part for a lot of people, was finding that author. And I did have a hint in there for the practice that you need to look for an about. So at the top here, we've got this little part that says about Weather Whiz Kids. And I believe it's also at the bottom too. If you scrolled all the way to the bottom, there is also an about. And so I have to click on that to get to my authority. Who is the author? Who wrote this? And so we learned that it is, the author is a person named Crystal Wicker. And so you would have needed to copy and paste or type her name exactly right, capitalizing her first and last name. Crystal Wicker is the author. The next question was, is she an expert? So looking through her information, I see that she has a degree in meteorology. She's a meteorologist. Okay, so she works for a news station as the morning meteorologist. Yes, that does make her an expert. Why? She has a degree in meteorology, the study of weather. So that is a yes. The last thing that you needed to check was the currency. So I'm going to go back to that tornadoes page, and I'm going to look all the way at the bottom, and I see the copyright is 2003 to 2020. That just means that they first created this site in 2003, before you were born, and it's been updated to 2020. So really the only date we care about here is 2020. It's as new and as recent and as current as 2020. So the date that we'd want to put here is 2020, I also accepted 2003-2020. Is that current enough to learn about tornadoes? Yes, that's current enough to learn about any subject. The current year is super current. Tornadoes probably been about the same for a while, and so we could actually use an older resource, but 2020 is current enough. So we would answer yes on that. Seems to me, Weather Whiz Kids, great site to use about tornadoes. Okay. The next part of your practice was to look at a page about Christopher Columbus on the website All About Explorers. And the first question is, going back to DRAC, is looking at the domain. I'm going to go up to that URL, and in the URL it says .com. Okay, so I'm going to put .com as my answer, and then the next question, what does that tell me? I need to check it carefully. So again, .com, I'm not sure. I need to keep checking through the DRAC model. My next question is this related to the topic? So on this one, I'm going to say it got a little tricky here, because does it appear that this website is about Christopher Columbus, my topic? Yes. So it does appear to be related. But I also accepted no on this, because if you have actually looked into Christopher Columbus, or if you know anything about him, you know that he can't possibly have been born in 1951. Okay, 1951, that's when probably, like some of your grandparents might have been born in 1951. There's no way that he could be born 70 years ago if he sailed the ocean blue in 1492. And I learned that in fourth grade. Okay, that little rhyme. And so if we start looking through this, these facts are not correct. Okay, this is not right. It says that even that Christopher Columbus appeared on Larry King Live. And so I accepted yes or no, because yes, it appears to be about Christopher Columbus, but when we look into it deeper, it's fake. And I'm just gonna spoil that right now. This site is not a great site, and we'll learn a little bit more in a moment. So for the next question, does it help us answer our questions? No, no, because this is a completely fake news. It's not going to help us answer our questions. The last question for relevancy is it fact or opinion? It's not an opinion, because it's not saying I think Christopher Columbus is a terrible person, because this, and there are people that dispute a lot of things that Christopher Columbus did. It's not talking about an opinion. They appear to be facts, so that was a tricky one. If you did put fact, the practice said it was correct. I'm going to tell you that there will not be anything this tricky on the assessment. This was just kind of a fun way to see if you could spot this fake site. There will not be anything tricky or a yes, no is both correct or anything like that on the assessment. So don't worry about that. The next thing we had to look at was authority. And so again, that told you need to look at about. And if I go to about the authors, that's where I should learn a little bit more about the authors. And so I look at the authors and I see we've got Gerald Ongst, I don't know, that's a weird name, Lauren Zucker, Dr. Eaton Crow, Lockton DeBrigg. There's like some interesting names there. But I just look at Gerald. That's who I would have accepted as the author, is Gerald Onks, if you would have put him in there. Also Lauren Zucker. When we look at it, he says, he works at a community college. He works at a college, but he's not a teacher at the college. He's kind of talking about, I don't know, it just seems like really kind of sketchy different things on here. And here we see Lauren is a voiceover actor. One big kind of weird thing here is eating crow. And so eating crow, like actually eating the bird, a crow, means that you admit defeat when you were wrong. Okay, so if something happened, let's say, you thought you were right and you argued with your brother, and then you found out later that you were actually wrong and you had to admit it. You had to admit that you were wrong. That's not fun. That's eating crow, okay? Because people don't like to eat crow, and so it's like, bleh, it tastes bad. It gives you a bad taste in your mouth because you were wrong. Um, so that's kind of a clue that this is some weird stuff here. Botanist, webmaster, that kind of stuff. That's not really historic experts. So the answer on is are they an expert is no, because they don't have a degree or an experience. And if you really looked into this page, you might see, not buying it. Click here for the real story. And it takes you to this kind of secret page that tells you that they are actually teachers and librarians that have made this site to teach students that some stuff out there is not real. And so here it is right here. The whole reason why this site even exists is to help us learn how to look at websites and determine if they're correct or not. The last thing that you needed to do was look at the currency. And even though we know that this is a terrible site to actually use for Christopher Columbus, we can kind of laugh at it and it's kind of fun. We can see that the currency is 2006 to 2020. Again, the date that we care about is the one on the end, 2020. Um, Considering nothing else, only looking at the year, is 2020 current enough to learn about Christopher Columbus? Yes. Okay. So make sure when you're looking at that currency that you're only thinking about the date. And again, 2020 is going to be current enough to learn about anybody, um, including a historical figure. So hopefully that was kind of fun to look at this fake site. I hope everything did make sense to you. You've got the initial video teaching you about DRAC. You've got the DRAC slides. You've got this video. You've got the written explanation. All of that practice should help you out on that assessment today. So really slow down, think about each of the questions, make sure that you are choosing answers that make sense. Okay? Good luck.